What's up, everyone? Back for another beer review, and today I'll be reviewing yet another beer from the Xül Beer Company, and they're out of Knoxville, Tennessee, and this is their PB&J Mixtape. So this is a peanut butter and jelly gluten-free sour that comes in at 6.5% alcohol by volume. No IBUs listed in time of review, and this can is just under 4 months old. And I want to give a huge thanks and shout out once again to a very good friend of mine and viewer of the channel, Cameron, for this beer. So big thanks to him. In the description box, I'll post a link to the beer mail unboxing video I did that contains all the goodies that Cameron sent my way, and he sent me 9 beers in total, all of which were from Midwestern breweries here in the US, except for one. This beer, it's from Tennessee. It's in the southeastern region, not the Midwest, but close enough. So yeah, he ended up sending this one my way, and I'm super excited to give it a go for a couple different reasons. Number one, it's Xül, and they make fantastic beer from the handful of different offerings I've had from them. And the second reason is this beer specifically has gotten a lot of hype over the past couple of years, more specifically like the last year and a half. I've heard nothing but amazing things about this offering. I've had a lot of fellow beer tubers review this or a variant of it. Same thing with my Untapped friends, folks on Instagram. Everybody seems to love this one. Now, for me personally, I was curious as to how many PB&J sours I've reviewed on the channel, so I did a search, and it seems I have reviewed about 6 of them. I've maybe missed a few because I just searched really by peanut butter or jelly, and came up with 6. And my favorite to date has been from Mortalis, and it's their Demi-Hydra Crustables variant. It's basically like an Uncrustables you find in the freezer section of your grocery store in a fruited sour. Absolutely divine. My second favorite was another beer that Cameron sent to me last year from Dimensional, their Sack Lunch. That was also quite tasty. In fact, in the note that Cameron sent with the beer mails, he said that he found this one very comparable to that aforementioned Sack Lunch. So I'm super excited about it. Now, as far as like what flavors the jelly in this one, I really couldn't find it specifically. Now, they do other variants, as I mentioned, and they have a strawberry variant, a raspberry variant, a blueberry variant. They do not have a grape variant. So I'm imagining the jelly or jam or whatever the J stands for in this is most likely grapes and maybe Concord grapes. Maybe they mix in some other fruits. I have no idea. This is also a gluten-free sour, which nowadays with these heavily fruited sours being gluten-free, a lot of times they're a seltzer base, which means this is not technically a beer. Still fermented and whatnot, but it's not a beer. But who cares? Does it matter? Not to me. As long as it's delicious. It also says on the label, we'll see if you guys can see it at the bottom there, it says contains peanuts. So there's actual peanuts they're probably using like the peanut powder. Maybe not. Anyway, I'm stoked for it. Let's get it into the glass and hope that it's just as delicious as that Mortalis offering and the Sack Lunch. Those were fantastic. I'm hoping it is. Here we go. Wow, so I was expecting it to be more like thick, gloopy looking, but it's clear pouring out. I don't know if you guys will be able to tell it, but it's clear, super fizzy. So I'm imagining this is like a seltzer base, not technically a beer. I'm doing it as a beer review. Nowadays, the lines are blurred and it doesn't matter to me. That fucking little cheat right there, amazing. And also, I'll show it at the end again, but I love the label of this. It's just fantastic. So we'll throw this over here like that so you guys can stare at it and who cares, right? So that fizzed up. It had like this pink colored head, but it fizzed up. And now what you get is a condensation because it's warm out, and that's what happens when the beer's a little bit colder. But look at that. Yeah, that doesn't look like a beer. It looks like a heavily fruited sour because it is. So that's straight on like a purplish kind of tinge to it with like some kind of dark red hints in there. Like I said, it had about a finger of a real spritzy soap, sudsy, almost like soda pop looking head. It is dissipated to a thin film like you'd get from a soda pop. So again, probably a seltzer base. Murky, turbid, you really can't see through it too much. I'll try to show you guys, see if you can get through it with the light here. But yeah, a little bit. So it's a little bit lighter. You can see at the bottom more like a lighter purple or maybe even like a red. But yeah, I mean, that looks kind of what you expect from a beer like this. So let's get a nose. Dude, it smells like, now I haven't had Uncrustables in a long time. But the last time I had one, I remember just having a distinct, like old school Wonder Bread with peanut butter and jelly. If I ever have a hankering for a PB&J nowadays, I use jam usually some kind of preserves from like a local farm or like a local company. And my favorite's always mixed berry. So I always get in, typically it's like blackberry, raspberry, and strawberry. This has more of that like grape kind of old school realm to it. But dude, this smells like everything. So when this says PB&J, a lot of people will think peanut butter and jelly or jam, right? Sure. But it's also the bread. This is like someone stuffed an actual peanut butter and jelly on white bread into some sort of 6.5% beverage. To me, it has that beautiful, like, kind of natural peanut butter. The last time I had peanut butter, I had like crunchy, and this kind of just smells like the crunchy peanut butter I had. It's definitely more grape than anything, but I could see this be like a blend of like grape and like strawberry. My go-to, like I said, is the mixed berry, but if I had to just pick a normal flavor, it'd probably be strawberry over grape, specifically for jelly and jam. Smells like it's probably going to have a decent tartness. Smells like it's going to be very sweet. I'm hoping that there's a nice, delicate balance between the sweetness and the tartness, because if you do pick this up, it's probably more of a dessert. I'd imagine the calories in this are probably decently high. So this is not going to be one you session, but I also don't want it to be like a dessert to me. I want it to be like kind of eating a PB&J, but with something to break up the monotony of all the sweetness that I think is going to be in this one. Anyway, this smells exactly how I hoped it would, so let's get into it. Cheers, everybody. Thanks again, Cameron. Yeah, definitely, to me, more grape than anything. It's fucking delicious. Did I know it was going to be delicious? Yeah, I did. I have a couple thoughts, though. A couple thoughts. First thought is, the nose is actually better than the taste. The nose captures a straight peanut butter and jelly sandwich. The taste, it's pretty much out to like the 13 motorcycles going by because it's warm out and they love it. Like every couple minutes they go by. We'll see if another one goes by before the end of this review. But the taste is more peanut butter, jelly, maybe like an underlying breadiness that I'm kind of stretching to get. Let's go body mouthfeel. What I do appreciate about this, and what I liked about that Mortalis Demi-Hydra Crustables variant, while this is heavily fruited in the way of there is a lot of intensity to the fruit flavor, the body isn't overkill. This is like higher side of medium, lower side of full, so it's not like that thick fruit smoothie, kind of like you're chewing the beer. That's not happening here. It makes it way more drinkable and almost refreshing. The mouthfeel, yeah, I mean, the mouthfeel is very carbonated. I'd say like a little bit over moderately carbonated. There's a good effervescent kind of spritziness on the palate. It does have a crisper kind of nature to it. It is smooth, not really creamy. So again, this isn't like a fruit smoothie sour. This is more of a heavily fruited sour, but it doesn't have the body and mouthfeel like of like a regular Hydra or some of your 450 North offerings and beers in that realm. The taste, front to back, to me, it's Concord grape. It's sweeter Concord grape. There's a little bit, I'd say this is moderately tart. It doesn't approach sour for me. This is moderately tart. Then there's a front to back creamy kind of, I would say, chunky peanut butter. It's more to the realm of like a natural chunky peanut butter where that has a more authentic just like peanut taste. That's what's kind of happening here. You do get, I'd say, peanut butter specifically, but it's not like full on like creamy peanut butter. This is one of those beers that's an omnipresent front to back Concord grape, maybe a little bit of like a strawberry, generic berry kind of fruit character, that chunky peanut butter, and an underlying very minute, like kind of bready, white bread kind of, just basically a piece of white bread. It's just very slight though. Again, the nose was more indicative of what a peanut butter and jelly sandwich is. The taste, not as much. Now here's the one issue I have with this one, but harken back to what I said a couple minutes ago. I'm not going to be crushing cans of this. You're going to drink one probably for a dessert or like you're in the mood for a fruited sour, something like that. So this does lean sweet. There is a nice, again, moderate tart kind of finish, slightly acidic. There's no bitterness, but it does have a little bit of a sweetness that is approaching maybe like a soda pop where you have a little bit of that phlegmy kind of buildup from the sugar. And that would impede the drinkability for this one. But again, you're usually not drinking whole cans of this, and a lot of times I'm splitting this between 2 or 3 people. So just keep that in mind, though. I do think these are a little bit on the sweeter side, but you kind of know that going in. 6.5%, I can't tell. I would say the base of this is probably seltzer-esque, and if not, then a very light beer base, again, being gluten-free. I don't know what they would actually have to do to have the base be gluten-free. I know there's a bunch of different ingredients and whatnot with old school gluten beers, but I'm talking about to make it taste like this and still have like a base beer and be 6.5%. I think it's probably more seltzer-esque, but whatever. At the end of the day, this is a very delicious beverage. Let me be honest with you though. I do think, and this is my own personal preference, maybe some of the variants are better. I do think that Demi-Hydra Crustables from Mortalis was more in my wheelhouse, plus that was only 5%. And I think that had just as much flavor as this has at 6.5. So I guess it's which one you'd prefer be in the eye of the beholder, because would you want that 1.5% extra higher ABV, or do you want a little bit lower ABV, which equates to lower calories as well? And I think this is right in line with that sack lunch, so I see what Cameron's saying, but I'll be honest with you, I think the sack lunch from Dimensional might have been slightly better. That's not to say this isn't good, because this is fucking delicious. I don't know how many times I've said it. I just think if those are my top 2 peanut butter and jelly sours, this was probably be tied for second or coming in a very close third. Yeah, it's really good. I mean, what would make it better and get it into that, like, I think I gave that Demi-Hydra from Crustables from Mortalis, I think I gave that like a high 4.5 or a low 4.75. That one just hit the nail on the head. I thought it had a great balance, the whole 9. And I think it was just more impactful, especially from a lower ABV. With this, I want a little bit more tartness. I would like this to get in the lower sour realm. It is called a gluten-free sour, so I'd like to be sour instead of tart. I'd like to see a little bit more of a overall oomph to the beer. Like, it's 6.5%, and don't get me wrong, the flavors are really nice, but the nose was way more impactful and intense and just like kind of punching me in my nostrils. I wish that would have carried over. And I also wish that kind of more of that bready, actual peanut butter and jelly sandwich vibe carried over to the taste. If so, this would be an easy 4.5, maybe a high 4.5. However, as is, I'm going to give PB&J a mixtape from Xül. I'm going to give this a high 4.25. I'll go 4.35. Almost gets into that low 4.5 realm. But like I said, if you would have tweaked if a couple things were tweaked out of this, I would even higher. Now, keep in mind also, this is just under 4 months old, so it's not super fresh. The other ones I reviewed, I think, were a little bit fresher. But it is what it is. A 4.35 is a fucking amazing score. This is a great fruited sour in the PB&J realm, and I am not I'm not angry. I'm not upset. I'm actually very happy. This was delicious. Price point availability. Cameron, now remember, Cameron lives in Wisconsin, and he saw a drop of this. He said it was $6.49 a can. You do the math, and you times that by 2, you're looking at what? $13, which would equate to $26 a 4-pack. If you are in Tennessee and you do get any of the beers from Xül, especially if you go to the brewery, is this $26 4-pack? I'd imagine this is like $22 to $25 4-pack. Most of the higher end Hydras from Mortalis, $25 4-pack. So this is, he actually got a drop of it in the realm of what you'd pay. $26 a 4-pack, getting distro all the way up to Wisconsin. I don't see an issue with $6.50 a can, and I would prefer places to do single cans of things like this, so I don't have to buy entire 4-packs. Mortalis does it now. They do mixed 4-packs at their all their locations, I believe, which is really cool, and I think that's kind of what more breweries need to do. And availability, I have no idea with Xül, obviously, in Tennessee. We saw a drop here once or twice from them a couple years back. Obviously, they're in Wisconsin, but outside of that, I couldn't tell you. So check out their website. Maybe they have a little bit more information. But anyway, if you've had this beer, this is the base PB&J mixtape from Xül. Let me know what you thought about it. Is there a better variant that I should seek out in the future? Again, I'm somebody who loves strawberries. I love blueberries. Raspberries are good too. I think any one of those variants probably would be pretty good. But this is damn delicious. Just a little bit lacking compared to the aforementioned Mortalis and Dimensional beer, but very slight in comparison to Dimensional. Dimensional, I think Mortalis's was, I don't want to say superior because that sounds crazy when I gave one like a 4.7 and the other one like a 4.35. They're still both awesome beers, but I just think Mortalis was more my preference. Maybe I'm being biased because I'm in Buffalo, New York, and Mortalis, I can get their stuff pretty much whenever, but who knows? I try not to be unbiased. I try to be open-minded, and I thought I was with this one. Again, 6.5%, you can't really tell. Not a lot of, again, sour, acidic kind of vibes to this one. I do think a little less sweetness would go a long way. So I apologize for the longer review. It's the Beer Patrol. You should expect it by now. But huge thanks to Cameron for this beer. Like I said, if you've had this one before or any of the variants, post in the comment section. If not, have you had a peanut butter and jelly sour before? If so, what's your favorite? If not, would you try one? I know you wouldn't, Billy. You're like, nah, it's not for me. I know, Billy. Billy, if you watch to the end, post in comments. If you post a comment and you don't say, I watched to the end, Joe, then I know you didn't watch to the end, Billy. What the fuck, man? Anyway, shutting this one down. Thanks, Cameron. Thanks, everybody. To the next one. Cheers.